Hello IP4 and welcome to this week's class. I hope everyone's keeping well, and just before we start I just want to say thank you to everyone who has provided me with such fantastic homework. Most of you have given me everything that I've needed, so I just want to say thank you very much for that. Okay, so we're talking about our bones, and maybe just quickly to go over about last week. We had bones, muscles and joints. Okay, so we looked at bones last week and we looked at the breakdown of every single bone. Okay, so bone is made up of 4 different parts. Okay, they were the periosteum, the compact bone, the cancellous bone, and then inside the cancellous bone you have bone marrow. So I just wanted to quickly go over that before we move on to the next bit, which is then muscles. Okay, so we're going to start off on page 16 at the very top. So if you can please follow, I will start reading. There are more than 600 muscles in our body. These muscles enable us to move, work, play, talk, see, hear and eat. They protect vital organs and help move food materials, waste materials, blood and other body fluids from place to place within our body. Okay, so let's go right from the start here. We have more than 600 muscles in our body. So our body is almost completely full of muscles, and they enable us to do so much. For example, like walking, talking, seeing. So for example, as you see, I'm talking here. You might think it's the bone, it's your jawbone that's doing the work, but it's not. It's the muscles connected to your jawbone that is helping, contracting and going up and down, so that to allow you to move your mouth. Okay. Same with when we blink, anything like that. Moving our hands just like this, all requires muscles to do that. Okay, so you can't move any part of your body or any bone without the aid of muscles. Okay, so then let's just a quick go through here. They protect vital organs. Okay, they protect vital organs. So our vital organs are our heart, liver, stomach, intestines. They're all surrounded by muscles. Okay, so they're all protected. Okay, so all of our vital organs, and mostly our internal organs, they're surrounded by muscles to protect them. They help move food materials. Okay, so after you swallow food, when it goes into our stomach, it needs the assistance of muscles to move the food from one organ to another organ. And it also helps blood to go through our body, okay, to circulate through our body. Okay, so types of muscles in our body. Muscles are all made of the same material, a type of elastic tissue. So if you think about an elastic band, okay, if you think about an elastic band, you can pull and stretch the elastic band. That's exactly the same with a muscle. Okay, so a muscle can pull and stretch. Okay. However, they are classified into 3 different types of muscles. Okay, so these are important for you to remember, the different types of muscles. These are the kind of questions that you get asked in your exams. Okay, so let's have a look. So the first muscle is called a smooth muscle. Smooth muscle. And its location is, where is it? It's located in the walls of internal organs other than the heart. Okay, so within the walls of internal organs other than the heart. So that means basically, if you think about the intestine, can you remember what the intestine looks like? It's a big tube. You have 2 intestines, large intestine, small intestine, and they're pretty much long tubes. And within those tubes there are muscles, and you will find smooth muscles inside the likes of your internal organs. inside your liver, inside your lungs, okay? All of those internal organs have smooth muscles inside them. Heart, whenever it says other than the heart, that means the heart does not contain a smooth muscle, okay? And type of control is involuntary. That means we have no control over it. Involuntary means you cannot move them on their own. You cannot make them move, okay? So if you can make a muscle move yourself, it's called voluntary. And involuntary means the body is doing it naturally. You don't get to choose when to move the muscle and when not to move the muscle. Okay, so it's just important to remember that. Okay, second one is cardiac muscle. And its location forms the walls and partitions of the heart. And the reason that it's very easy to remember where the cardiac muscle is because cardiac basically means heart. Okay, it means heart. So cardiac muscle means heart muscle. So as long as you can remember cardiac means heart, you'll always remember where the cardiac muscle is. Okay, and again, that is an involuntary type of control. You don't get to choose when your heart beats and doesn't beat. It does it itself, okay? So that's smooth muscle, cardiac muscle. And then the last one is skeletal muscle. And that's attached to the skeleton. Most appear in pairs. So that is voluntary. So that means we can move them when we want. And so all the muscles, for example, there are muscles attached to the bones of your fingers, because that's the skeletal, so your skeleton. And there's bones, so you have your skeleton bone here, and there's muscles that are attached to that allow us to move our fingers and thumb and hand, all like this, okay? So that's voluntary, okay? They don't happen automatically. I make them happen, okay? So I think about it, or my brain sends signals and says, yep, okay, do this now because I want to do something. Another example is if you look at your arm here. You could do this and get big muscles. Okay, the reason why you can, whenever you do this and your muscles get bigger, is because you're making them do them. So that is voluntary. Okay, so you're making your muscle change. Okay, that's voluntary. So it's important to remember any muscles along your skeleton, so in your legs and your feet as well, they are all voluntary. So we can move them anytime we want to move them. And then the other two types of muscles, cardiac and smooth muscle, they are involuntary. Involuntary means we cannot move them when we want. Our body decides when they should move and not move, okay? It's not up to us. Okay, so I just want to have a look at your questions here that you're going to need to answer for this week in your copybooks. And also, can I just please remind everyone, when you're answering these questions, write the question and then the answer, okay? So I want you to write the question and then the answer. So when you're reviewing for your tests, it'll be very easy for you to know why have you wrote a sentence for what? Well, if you put the question first, you'll know where the answer is. So it'll help you remember them easier. Okay, how many muscles do we have? Very simple answer. It's the very first sentence. Please write the full sentence. Okay. Question number 2. Why do we have muscles? What are their functions? Okay. So muscles, I'm going to help you with this answer because I want you to make sure that they're answered correctly. Muscles enable us to move, work, play, talk, see, hear, and eat. And they protect vital organs and help move food, materials, waste materials, blood and other body fluids from place to place within our body. That is the full answer to that question. Okay? Please make sure you don't just write 1 or 2 words. You need to write the full sentence. It's very easy. You just need to copy it and remember it. Okay? And then the last one, copy the table of the different types of muscles, their locations, and their type of controls. And again, this is a type of question that you might get in your exams. You will have this grid, you'll have smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, skeletal muscle, and I will ask you, write in the location and write in the type of control. So when you're writing this and drawing this, please try to remember the information, okay? So the smooth muscle located in the internal organs other than the heart, and it's an involuntary movement control. Cardiac muscle forms within the walls of the heart, and it's involuntary. And then finally, skeletal muscle is attached to the skeleton, so it's in the name. Like with cardiac and skeletal muscles, it's in the names, very easy to remember. So it's attached to your skeleton and it's voluntary. It's the only one out of the 3 types of muscles that is voluntary. Okay? So there are your 3 questions for that page. Okay, page 17. So that's muscles. Now we're going to move on to joints. Okay? So top of page 17, I'll read. Please follow. Joints are where 2 bones meet. They are kept together by strong connective tissues called ligaments. Muscles are attached to the bones at the joints by strong cords called tendons. So, joints are where 2 bones meet. For example, you have your hand bone and you've got your arm and you have your wrist here. Well, your wrist is a type of joint, okay? It's where 2 bones meet, okay? Right here. For example, up here you have your shoulder joint is up here because you've got your shoulder here from your skeleton here, your body skeleton, and your arm. So there's a joint here. So anywhere where 2 bones meet, you'll have a joint, okay? And they are held together, okay? So these are kept in place. For example, here we have like your elbow joint, right? So here and here are kept together by a joint because that's where they both meet. But then they're attached to each other by something called a ligament, which is like an elastic band that holds this part of the arm with this part of the arm. So it keeps them together. So whenever you move, they move correctly, okay? And that's ligaments. And then the muscles are attached to bones. So muscles are attached to bones by cords called tendons. So when we were using here, you've got your muscle here. That has to connect to your bone somehow. And that is connected through something called a tendon, okay? So if you could just remember where they are, I think that's the most important part. Joints vary in the amount of movement they are allowed and are classified as immovable, slightly movable, and freely movable. What this means is joints can move, but not all joints can move. One is called immovable, that means it cannot move. Then one slightly movable, so that means it can move a little bit. And then one freely movable, and that means it's free to move no matter what. Okay, so let's have a look at the different types of joints. The dome of a skull is made of bony plates, which are joined together with immovable joints. It must be immovable to protect the brain. So if you've ever seen a picture of a skull, you'll see lots of cracks in a skull. Well, all those cracks, that's your skull, and it's all held together using joints. And obviously, they don't move. So they are immovable joints. So if you look here, you'll see the image of the skull. You'll see there's like little lines that go throughout the skull. And those all those little pieces of skull are kept together using joints, immovable joints, okay? So they don't move. Next one. The spine is made of individual bones which are joined together with slightly movable joints. Each individual bone in the spine can move slightly in relation to the one above and below it. Together, these movements give the spine its flexibility. Okay, so there's a picture of the spine here. Okay, the spine goes down your back. Okay, and each one of these bones can only move a tiny bit, but when you put them all together, they can move a lot. So they are kept together. So each one of those discs, okay, so these are called discs. Each one of those are held together using joints and slightly movable joints. Okay, so we know slightly movable means that they're not immovable and they're not free, so they can only move a little bit. Okay, but when you put them all together, all of these slightly movable joints together, like in a spine, it means that they can move, they're very, very flexible. Okay, so obviously in our back, we know we can't put our back all the way back. We can't go like this. That's because of the spine and the joints that are in them, that are in our spine. Okay, and then finally, the elbow and shoulder are two places where freely movable joints can be found. The hinge joint at the elbow allows movement in one plane, like a door hinge, and the ball and socket joint at the shoulder allows movement in almost any direction about its fixed center. Okay, so we have freely movable joints, and this one, your elbow, is called a hinge joint. So you can do this, but you can't do it the other way. Okay, you can only do it one way. Okay, so I can't bend my arm this way. Okay, so that's a hinged joint. But then if I look at my shoulder, I can move it like this. Okay, so that is a ball and socket joint. Okay, so a ball and socket. So a socket is like two circles, and then you're going to have a ball that sits in the middle of the two circles, and then your arm can move around using the ball inside. Okay, so that allows you to freely move your arms, your shoulders. Okay, all right, so as you can see the pictures here, a good example of the hinge joint, and there you can see the muscles holding them together. And then here we have the ball and socket joint, and we can see the muscles around one around the shoulder blade that's holding onto the ball, onto the arm, and then there's a ball inside that which allows you to rotate. Okay, your questions for this page. What are joints? What are the different parts of a joint? Okay, so very easy, first paragraph here. What are the three different types of joints? Describe them in detail and give examples of where they can be found. So this paragraph, and this paragraph. You might not have to write them all. You can pick and choose if you can get the answer in shorter words, but if not, you'll need to write all of these paragraphs, okay, to answer that question. So the three different types are immovable, slightly movable, and freely, okay, freely movable. They are the three different types, and you need to describe and give examples of where they can be found. Okay, so it's just 2 pages today. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions this week. They're all pretty easy. The answers are there on the pages. Shouldn't be too difficult. So that's all for this week. Thank you for listening, and see you again next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.